I'm super excited for today's episode. We're having Cameron Goold as a guest. He's been a longtime friend of mine, an amazing director, and yeah, I'm curious and I'm super excited for you guys to get to know him.
Yeah, excited
Hi,
to be here.
Cam.
Hey, hey,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little nervous, but I'm good. For the
Neat.
five people who see this, just know I was nervous making it for you.
It's not gonna be five people. But it's always funny when I'm recording those episodes with you guys because it's like 10 p.m. here, and you guys have like full sunshine and full sunlight. So
I know. Yeah, I'm not a morning person, but it's not really morning anymore, so it's okay. But usually I'm better at the 10 p.m. side of things than the 10 a.m. side of things. So good.
well, next time I'll do it in the morning. You'll do it in the evening.
Yeah, right.
So great to have you here. I was super excited for this episode because it's been due for a long time. And yeah, we've known each other for a few years now. We've worked on some campaigns together. And I feel like you have so much interesting things to say about your industry, about your work as a director. Why don't you, I don't want to say introduce yourself, but why don't you just give the listeners a little
Yeah,
introduction. Who are you? Where are you from? And how did you get to work as a director?
yeah. So I'm from Salt Lake City. I was born in Boston, grew up in Chicago a bit, but I've been in Salt Lake City for a long time. And I was just one of those kids who like made videos in their backyard with the VHS camera, jumping bikes off a jump or blowing up toy soldiers in the garden with firecrackers. Like that was what me and my friends did. And it kind of was a thing all the way into high school, and in high school our school district had a really cool kind of like program where you could for half the day you go to this like separate campus in the city, and you learn multimedia stuff. So I did a bunch of video in high school, and uh and then I decided I wanted to be a commercial director, and thankfully there was some guys here in Salt Lake who kind of became mentors of sorts for me. And I reached out, Cole Webley and Julian Acosta are the two guys, and I reached out to Cole when I was in college and just said, I really like your work, I want to sit down and talk with you. And Cole was kind enough to kind of sit down with me and take me through what it means to be a commercial director.
But wait a
And
second. You knew that in high school already?
oh, I knew, I've wanted to do some version of filmmaking since seventh grade. I actually remember like the very specific moment we were watching. I was in a ceramics class and we were watching Finding Nemo, and we were watching the behind the
Okay.
scenes of Finding Nemo. And it was this whole thing about how they create the characters, and they make them out of clay and then they turn them into 3D and all this stuff. And I was so in. I saw it and I'm like, this is what I want to make movies. And so for a while, actually, I thought I wanted to animate. I thought I wanted to work at Pixar and do animation. I just really liked what Pixar, was doing. Like all their movies just seemed to like, I don't know, just mean something to me. And then in that high school like multimedia program, we sat down to like finally do some actual 3D animation, and I was like, this is not for me at all. And but it was kind of good because it was like a progression of, I knew I wanted to make, I wanted to tell stories, but it was a bit of an evolution from kind of animation into just like more traditional filmmaking, the focus or the dream, but Finding Nemo was was the pinnacle for me.
But that's crazy because usually, you start with a typical, oh, I want to become a veterinary or I want to go to the moon.
Yeah.
You knew that from a very early age.
Yeah, it's funny. I think like all the way up until that moment, I thought I wanted to be a dolphin trainer at SeaWorld. And then Finding Nemo happened and I decided I wanted to make movies. So.
How would you describe your style? Or was there like a specific aesthetic, especially when you were in high school or when you said, oh my God, I want to become a director, that, you know, made you feel drawn to the industry or to the job especially?
Yeah, you know, I think for me, I grew up in a family, we didn't really have movies. We had like 4 movies, you know, and it was like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and a couple Disney movies was what we had at home. And
the basics.
yeah, you know, like it feels like a lot of other families had just like big movie collections or going to the movies was a bit of a thing. And that was just like not how my family operated. So I had a weird relationship with movies where I just like was trying to get my hands on anything I could watch. And my dad refused to like pay for cable television. And so I think me and my brothers were just like deprived. We just wanted to watch anything new. But I do remember like, you know, early on, the Coen brothers were like a big deal to me. I remember just like really liking, especially like when they're being the funny version of themselves, like Raising Arizona was, I loved that movie as a kid. And it was cool to see the Coen brothers kind of like evolve as directors, and they kind of went from these sort of offbeat comedy things, and then they're doing No Country for Old Men, and they're doing like all these different kind of genres, but they're doing it all really, really well. And I think the Coen brothers were probably like the earliest like directorial influence to me, I guess. And to this day, like they're the best. So it's kind of hard to beat them, but I think I've been drawn to a certain like combination of kind of comedy and humanity, you know, like, and I think the Coen brothers like did that well. And, you know, fast forwarding to today, I think, I think a lot of the directors I really like Alexander Payne or Greta Gerwig or a lot of different people, I think they all kind of have this similar sort of balance of comedy and humanity and kind of wholesomeness buried under there somewhere. And I really like a movie that can kind of make you laugh, but give you something too. You know, there's like, you feel better for having seen it. I love when a movie can do both of those things, where it's funny and memorable and quotable and valuable, you know. I mean, the way I kind of got into automotive commercials is it's funny because I'm not really a car guy that much, and I'm not really even a motorcycle guy. I'm just a bit of a poser. But through random opportunities, I ended up shooting a lot of motorcycle stuff, which was kind of this sneaky doorway into automotive work for me. And I really, really like it. It's so fun. I could shoot cars all day. It's so fun. And I was kind of fortunate to get into motorcycles, and then through you know, the Utah kind of film scene, there's a cool little like specialty camera shop called Override, and they do a lot of like, you know, the crane on top of the trucks or just like specialty camera stuff. And I was kind of fortunate to get a lot of time in the camera car, and you know, just to spend 8 hours just shooting motorcycles on trails and whatever is really valuable experience. And to kind of understand the equipment is a big part of shooting automotive. And I was kind of fortunate to get early opportunities into like understanding that stuff that translated into like bigger commercial automotive stuff in a really great way.
Now that you're mentioning cranes and the special cars, I remember seeing a BTS of the Aston Martin
Yeah.
shoot. I think this is one of the most impressive commercials I've ever seen. Because I remember just your BTS on your story. I think the car was just drifting in a
Oh my
circle or
gosh.
something like that. And it was in slow-mo. I was like, oh my fucking gosh, that looks insane. And then the commercial dropped, and I was like, woo!
Yeah.
This belongs into TV.
I know. Well,
That was really
it
impressive.
was really like, yeah, just such a unique opportunity. And that one kind of came again through my buddy Aaron, who was, I mean, Aaron's a photographer, and Aaron and I have been friends since middle school, and we kind of came up doing all this stuff together. And he's so talented, and he's opened so many doors for me. But yeah, the Aston Martin thing was this kind of unique situation where they had just enough money for us to kind of make it happen and get that shoot. I wish you could have seen what that shoot was really like, because it probably looked like
Yeah, because it looks like $1 million shoot.
it probably did, and we probably made it look like that, but it really was like kind of a crew of like 8 or 9 of us taking 2 RVs out to the middle of the desert. And where we're shooting, that spot we shot in Utah, it's so cool, but you are out there. I mean, you're 2 hours from a gas station kind of thing. You know, you're 2 hours from anything, and
Wow.
there's no cell service, and it's hot. And you know, it's funny, we shot that Aston Martin thing right after Dubai, where we met, and me and
Really?
Mason got to that set, the desert in Utah, and everyone's like, oh, it's so hot. And we're like, no, we just got back from Dubai in
You
July.
know nothing.
This is great. And so it kind of, yeah, it was nice. It toughened us up for that shoot. But that shoot, I mean, like, even driving in, we're driving in the night before, the RV gets stuck in some crazy like sand pit thing, and so we just left it there. We just slept where we were stuck overnight, and in the morning, our buddy Ethan, he like hops on a motorcycle, and there's a mine, like a couple, and when I say mine, it's like a really like ghetto. It's like 4 guys with big equipment just mining rock stuff. But he rides over there, convinces them to bring their huge mining excavator thing, and they dig us out of the sand thing in the RV. And it was, yeah, there was a lot that didn't go right about that shoot, but it was this we had like a pretty good crew out there, and Aston Martin hooked us up with obviously the vehicle and the driver to go along with it. And Serge is the driver, and he just like, I kind of look back on that job and I'm like, how are they just like, here's a car that costs as much as a house, go have fun with it in the desert. And Serge is like, he was drifting, going, you know, like 120, and just going so fast, and the tires were getting pretty wrecked, and he's sitting there in the car, no AC, trying to keep the engine cool, and he's just sweating it out in the car. And, anyways, that was a bunch of fun. But yeah, I think those jobs, thankfully, we, you know, the kind of technology for the car, you know, the armed car and the crane and all that stuff had gotten much easier. Is that just your phone? Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I think I was fortunate to kind of get some good time in the chair with all the toys to kind of learn how to do it. And that Aston Martin shoot was, you know, we obviously went in with specific shot ideas, but it was also just like a great, I mean, we just have a huge open flat desert playground to really learn how to get better and experiment and stuff like that, which is, yeah, so much of what it takes to get better. So it was really good.
Yeah, it was really impressive, and I think like the audience loved that one.
Yeah.
Like when I see the comments under that post, oof, People really love
I
that
know.
one.
Well, it's funny because it's like compared to a lot of the other stuff on my reel, it's a bit of like something different where it's not like authentic friends on the road vibes. It's like this futuristic, I don't know, dystopian thing. And
Yeah.
it was really fun to do something different like that. And yeah, we were fortunate to kind of have just the right few key players to make something cool kind of on a budget.
When you tell and speak about all of those gorgeous shoots, like it sounds like you're really thriving and you're having like the best time of your life. But do you have phases when you feel like stuck?
Oh my.
And if you feel stuck, is there like a specific person you talk to, or because I feel like a lot of creatives can relate to that. We all feel stuck. We don't always get jobs. We don't always get bookings. How do you deal with those phases when there's nothing going on?
Yeah.
Are you like a person that can easily just, oh, cool, I'm just going to spend time doing my hobbies or something I wanted to do like for a long time anyway? Or are you getting more into this black hole, starting to feel depressed?
Definitely much more the latter. Yeah.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
funny because it's like when you choose a creative job, especially to be on the kind of like freelance side of creative work, it's a battle. And you've chosen a career where comparison is part of the deal, right? Like you're looking at one person's portfolio compared to someone else's. And it's obviously comparison and mental health. That's a tough combination to figure out that.
That's a tough
Yeah,
one.
that balance of being self-aware of your own work and your own skills and all that stuff. Like you need to have this self-awareness, but you also do kind of need to have the confidence to just turn off the noise and recognize what is noise and what is real. And it's a whole, I mean, a day job from a mental health perspective has to be easier. Way less pressure, way less like comparison and you know, the way you value yourself is so kind of superficial, right? Like it's just your portfolio, your portfolio is you, and that's a tough one to navigate. And I think, you know, I have always been maybe on the sort of like scrappier side. Like if I don't have anything going on, I'll make something go on. You know, I'll find little jobs or little opportunities to go shoot. And I really try to keep myself busy because I will definitely go crazy if I don't stay busy. And it's and I just don't think I have the luxury of just like sitting and waiting for work to come to me. So yeah, it's those, when things are slow, it can get challenging, and it's hard to not get discouraged or just talk shit on yourself consistently in those kind of phases of being a freelance creative person. But I also think that's part of what makes it great too, is that you've chosen a career that you care about, and that is a reflection of yourself. And yeah, and something, and to feel like you have an impact. Like if you go work hard and make something great, that will matter. And maybe that's the flip side of kind of a day job, is that your efforts do have an impact on your situation, maybe in a more real way than a typical like 9-to-5 job would. But that's good and bad, right? Because there's also no one else to blame besides yourself. And I think ultimately there's more pros than cons, but it can be dark, and it can be scary, and it can be a lot of things that that are really tough. And I think the way, you know, confidence factors into you doing your best work on top of all of that is an especially tricky thing. And you got to find a way to kind of keep your self-talk healthy and good. Because if you're, I mean, for me, there's definitely like such a difference in the confident version of me and the not confident version of me in the product. Like if I go into a project with confidence, it's just going to be better, right? And as a director, especially, so much of your job is to just be the guy who's confident and be the guy who knows the answers and be the guy who knows what he wants. And yeah, sometimes that's a tricky balance.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially when you're in this flow state. Like things just turn out better. Everything just gets better, also in your daily life.
100%.
But I agree, especially in those times when you have nothing going on. What I've tried to do, but I'm still having a hard time with it, but I really try to do is check on my portfolio and really see, okay, is this going into the direction that I want to go? And if not, just really take this free time and do some free projects with my friends or colleagues.
Right.
What I saw the other day is that Patrick and Jet just recorded like kind of a short film or like a clip.
Yeah.
And I really loved that. And I think you did that in your free
Right.
time.
Yeah, I think like as a creative person, I do think people want to work with an artist, right? Like they don't want to work with just a corporate video guy. Like they want to work with someone who has an artistic voice or vision or whatever. And I think there's always going to be this balance of like trying to make the commercial opportunities coming to you, trying to make them as good as they can be with your artistic voice and vision, but at the same time, like a healthy amount of like commercials are going to be commercials, and let's not make it all about commercials. And the way, just one little passion project or something that's a little more of a pure artistic endeavor can get you more commercial work is like one of the interesting battles. And I think especially as you get higher and higher up, people want to work with, I mean, one of the things that's been a challenge for me lately is since I signed at Farm League, and I've kind of been competing with a new tier of different directors, and typically a traditional commercial job is going to have 3 different directors bidding on it, and it feels like now I'm kind of consistently up against directors who have their own Netflix series or something they shot, on Hulu, and that kind of I think, like I said, people just want to work with an artist, and having the artist box checked with these more artistic endeavors that aren't just commercials is going to be an important factor to climbing the commercial ladder at the same time. And so I think in today's age of social media, it's easier than ever to go take on some sort of project that is artistic but really small in scale. I think that's something I've been like especially interested in kind of figuring out for myself, is how can I go get some sort of creative exercise for myself in a way that's something I can post on social media, and posting on social media and just reminding people you exist, and the sort of appearance of working all the time, I think is a really important factor. And so in those down times, I think that stuff, I think there should always be like 2 or 3 like little projects in your pocket, as soon as you have time to do it. Those down times are great opportunities to just execute on some of that stuff.
I agree. And now that you mentioned social media, I don't know how you feel, but as an artist, social media is a or became a blessing and a curse. Because blessing,
Mhm.
as you said, you can just really portray yourself the way you would want people to perceive you. You can work on those
Right.
projects, develop in a certain artistic direction that you would love to do. But at the same time, I felt it, especially as a makeup artist, hair and makeup artist, that as soon as I don't post, like the world kind of forgets about you. Because
Yeah.
now, of course, as a self-employed person, you always have to do a business sense. But that had more to do like, okay, how to get new clients, do your invoices and all of that stuff, the offline things. But now it's like, okay, you somehow have to go viral. You have to go do good content, and you have to
Yeah.
do the stories and the reels, and you have to do short form content. And this, I don't know, I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on you, especially because now you're competing with social media people, and there's
Right.
like such a fine line between, wait a second, I'm a director, or I'm a hair and makeup artist.
Yeah.
I'm this department. How did I become like an editor now, or like a social media person?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like you said, it's this blessing and a curse where it's pretty easy to go on social media and get discouraged with how much good stuff is going on, or, how much good stuff is being made. And are these people better than I am? And that whole kind of comparison element of it is the downside of social media. And I think I used to have a little more of like a perspective of I should be able to just make good stuff and people come to me, and my portfolio should speak for itself, and that's how it should work. But it's really like, that's just not the real world. And I think there's the way I kind of think about social media is it's an opportunity to just showcase my work and my skills and my art and whatever. It's also an opportunity to remind people that I exist and I am hustling and trying to make things happen, which is super valuable because so much of the business relies on you being top of mind for decision makers, right?
Yeah.
And I think social media is a good way to just keep people engaged in your whole process,
Also to
and
sell
not
your
to like,
personality, because at the end of the day, it's a
yeah.
people business.
Yeah, and I think that's like the kind of third way I'm thinking about social media is that it's an opportunity to give people a little bit of an insight as to like what it's like to work with me too, because I do think it's you could be an like I think I've seen directors who are mostly concerned about the product, the final shot, how it all looks when it's all said and done, which obviously is a real thing, like that matters, but the experience really matters too, right? And especially in commercial world, like you have to remember that so many of the people you're going to be interacting, like this is their job. This isn't their whole life. This isn't like their magnum opus, like they're just making car commercials. And yeah, they want to make something good, but they also just like want to have a good,
A good time.
easy, fun time doing it. And those things aren't mutually exclusive, like we can make really good stuff and have a good experience doing it too. So I think trying to give, a little bit of the experience factor via social media, to me, I think that's important to me. And I think a lot of people see that for what it is, and they're like, oh, this guy is going to be easy and fun to work with on top of being good and talented and whatever. I think that's the kind of best case scenario.
And I also love that you guys almost always work together. Like, whether it's
Yeah.
you, Mason, or Aaron, or Jet, Patrick, like, and I feel like people see that, and I don't know, you have to tell me, like, they really book you in that package, or do they
Yeah.
request that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's a huge part of the experience, is just like the team that comes along with me, or whatever. uh like the team sport element of filmmaking is easily one of my favorite parts about it. I love that it's this, like, it's kind of unlike most other art forms where I can't go make my dream project by myself. Unlike maybe a painter or whatever, like, I have to do it at the level I'd like to do it requires, you know, a lot of people. And I think I've been a little more maybe aware of how directors, it's almost like they're a bit of the head coach of a team. And I kind of like how much of directing is just managing a team, because that's like part of the fun for me. I mean, I'm so much of my life I can only understand through like sports analogies. And I really like the team sport element of filmmaking. It's fun to like put together this dream team. And it's fun to like figure out this dynamic of people's strengths and how we can get the most out of each other. And to me, like, most of the directors I really like, that's what they're doing too. Like, it's not like, I mean, it's going to be different for everyone, but like a Roger Deakins, he's going to have his kind of core team of guys he usually works with, or, the Coen brothers or whatever. They're going to kind of have this roster of collaborators that they're returning to because they get the best out of each other. And I like that kind of shared responsibility of making something good, and the kind of hunt to find the dream team is a lot of what I like about the job.
Absolutely, I agree. Is there like a pet peeve that you have on set?
Um, I
Because
definitely don't have a lot
for
of
me,
time.
it's like a shitty producer when the vibes are just like very stressed. I feel like
Yeah,
everyone notices that. Like if the producer is
it's
pissed,
yeah, 100%. I mean, like, I think, yeah, it's funny how much a producer and an AD kind of set the tone maybe more than I do. Like,
yeah.
and with ADs especially, I've kind of worked with a lot of them, and I've seen the different types. I I don't handle the like screaming, angry version of production very well. Like, I think some people kind of
Same.
like feed off that energy and whatever. And yeah, everyone's going to be different. But for me, I'm going to just get very disoriented and kind of confused if there's a lot of drama on set. And I think most people are probably that way. And so, I mean, I also think like the vibe on set is something you kind of earn or create, with how you handle everything going up to when you're shooting. And yeah, for me, like, the best, when it feels like when I'm getting the best stuff, it tends to be a certain type of vibe where everyone's happy, everyone's chilling. I can feel the trust in me. It's like I'm not getting hounded by notes and blah, blah, blah. Like, it feels like there's a real sweet spot that, and kind of back to the team building element. I think it's, yeah, to create the vibe, to just capture good stuff is a really important part of it. And a part of it I like want to be aware of, and am actively trying to like make it good. And I think I like, even on the Dubai shoot where we met, there were these moments where there would be like a little bit of drama, and suddenly like my mind is in the wrong place and I'm
Same.
worried about like who's happy with who or blah, blah, blah. Um, and I'm certainly not going to do my best work if I'm worried about someone's feelings. And I think that's going to be kind of my natural. I'm going to worry about people not being happy, and that worry can be a bit of a distraction, for myself. And so I just want to make sure people are happy so that I'm not thinking about it more than anything, maybe.
Absolutely. This is a very classic question. It's very cliche, but I feel like it says a lot about a director.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you, uh, what's your favorite movie?
I mean, yeah, that's all.
I feel like all, oh, what's your favorite questions are like very mean because there is not one favorite thing.
Yeah.
But maybe there's like a movie where you feel like, okay, that's just the one.
Yeah, that's like a hard one for me. I think like,
Maybe there's like 3 to 4 where you feel like they inspired you the most or they like translate
yeah,
to
like we were talking earlier,
your
I
style.
think because I grew up with only like a handful of movies, I think I had a real appreciation for the type of movie you could watch 20 times, and like kind of find something new in it every time or whatever. And uh, so I had a couple movies that were just kind of on repeat, maybe not by choice, but Forrest Gump was one of those movies for me. And I loved Forrest Gump growing up. Like that movie was like a really important one for me. I think if I had to choose my favorite movie, honestly, like Lady Bird might be my number one movie. I think like that movie is at like a lot of intersections of like things I like and things I want to be able to do myself. And it's just done so well. Yeah, so maybe I'll just say Lady Bird.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be honest, I could not tell you like one movie right now because I feel like it's 10 movies where I feel like they impacted me a
Yeah.
lot. Um I felt like I was always drawn to those art house movies. Of course, growing up in Europe, I always had access to that. I remember like there was this channel called Arte or Arte.
Hmm.
I don't know how to pronounce it. And they were always showing movies that would never go into cinemas that were like really very small produced. And I feel like that was the start of the interest for me into this whole industry because I felt like, oh my God, how did they shoot that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm this is a whole other like distracted conversation, but I was people will often ask me about like my take on film school and whether it's worth going or not. And I actually think one of the most valuable parts of film school for me was being forced to watch so many movies. Like and especially the kind of like the old European Ingmar Bergman, like all the kind of like art house stuff that I think I always had like a respect for it, but I'm not gonna like pull it up on a Friday night, to watch necessarily either.
No, of course not.
And so I was kind of glad to be kind of force fed my vegetables a little bit because I think it really like instilled a deep appreciation for that kind of stuff. And really, in film school, I really fell in love with like film noir stuff, and there was it really like expanded uh my horizons, from a film perspective. And I was really happy. I think that's one of the more valuable parts of film school, is just to be forced to watch a lot of stuff and talk about it. And yeah, I think all that's really important. And it's funny because it's like I can almost it's like I think about movies in a couple different ways. Like there's a version of a movie that's just like happening to me and I'm just like in it and experiencing it. And there's a version of a movie where I'm like really noticing how they're executing things and like really trying to like see how they're doing it. And I yeah, so it's like I think I always felt a little embarrassed that I had a weird kind of wide variety of movies I liked, as opposed to like niching down into like, oh, I'm only into like early 60s French cinema or something like that, you know? I think you see a lot of like the kind of film snob characters in film school especially. And
Yeah.
it can kind of make you feel insecure if you haven't seen every Criterion Collection movie ever made. And it can maybe make you feel like you're not an authority on films, or you don't have like a perspective. But I and even now, you know, like I feel like I don't know what my kind of movie is. You know, I think I know better now than ever of the type of movie I would want to go make. But I also just like have an appreciation for so many different types of movies, and it's always a tough question. Yeah.
I know. um, what's next for you? What's in your pipeline? What do you feel like, um, or let's say like that. What do you feel like will happen in your industry? Is there like a certain trend that you're
Yeah.
witnessing, or something where you feel like, okay, that's going to be like a big change next year or in the upcoming years?
Oh, I could talk for so long about this. I mean, it feels, I mean, frankly, 2023 and 2024 on some level as well, like, has been a very tough time for the industry, at least here, I would imagine, kind of everywhere.
Yes.
And
Yeah, with the strike and everything, right?
yeah, and you see how it is a tough business. And especially if you're
Yeah.
not at the top, it's you know, like as jobs kind of dry up, the jobs that would have been yours are suddenly being taken by the people who are a couple, you know, steps ahead of you career wise. And those guys are taking jobs they would never normally take. And anyways, it's been a challenging past year, really, in a lot of ways. And I think I've kind of developed a new found respect for the kind of independent, direct to client sort of work, like, you know, just hunting down these brands you want to work with, and kind of just finding a way to make it work for everyone, which is, you know, been a lot of kind of like me. There's been a lot of education for myself as far as kind of learning the agency side of things and how to talk to a brand in that sort of lingo that's a little more practical business stuff as opposed to high-minded creative whatever. So I trends for me personally, there's just been a lot more direct to client work, which has been cool, I think. And I think I've been seeing the power of approaching a brand with a vision of something and just kind of taking them, you know, making it happen. And outside of commercials, you know, well, and I should say with the commercial side too, I think it was especially tough when I'm like, you know, I wouldn't really want to call myself like an automotive director, but, you know, on top of all the strikes with Screen Actors Guild and whatever, there was also the automotive strikes. And so there was just like so little car work going on, and it was scary. And I mean, it feels like more so than any other time in my career, you know, as long as I've been in the game, this is by far the most I've seen legitimate film people having to quit and take real jobs because of how scary it's been. And so that's been kind of humbling and clarifying in a lot of ways. But on a more artistic level, it's been nice to start thinking about, this kind of next level of what I hope to do. That, you know, the dream has always been making narrative content, and that's, I think, not having so much commercial work has opened up a lot of time into thinking about that next step, and starting to strategize there, and really, like, you know, be asking myself, like, what is the type of thing I want to make that has nothing to do with a commercial, like with a completely blank canvas. Like, what do you want what are the stories you want to tell, or what do you want to do? And it's been nice for me to kind of challenge myself with those questions and start working on the answers. And it does feel like I know myself as an artist better than ever, kind of in spite of how little work has been happening, And I think, so the next steps for me, I think, is really like just trying to get some exercise in this sort of narrative world. And, and it's been nice to have Jed here doing it kind of alongside, and the way we're kind of able to piggyback off each other's, what we're learning along the way has been so huge. And it's, there's just like there's an energy that comes with doing it with other people. And thankfully between, Patrick and Eric and Jed and you, it's been so cool to just like find these people who, on a level that's bigger than commercials, just want to like make cool stuff together. And it's been so cool to like see how many people feel that way. And especially like the people I want to do it with feel that way has been so cool and just energizing. And so I think the next big step for me is shooting, narrative content of a certain scope or scale, hopefully like getting some longer form stuff done. And I mean, the thing I'm really focused on right now is just being a better writer. I think that's like a part of directing that I've been scared to dive into more. I don't think I've ever thought of myself as a strong writer. And it's just like, you can't, I think I was kind of fooling myself that like, if I do the right things, there's just going to be a script that lands in my lap and I'll make it, kind of thing. And that's just like not very realistic. And the much more realistic version of me making narrative content or whatever is that I just like have, this portfolio of narrative content under my belt that I have written. And so I'm really trying to like get to this point where I've written X amount of scripts and that I can kind of take my favorite one and go make it. And it feels fun to have like, 3 or 4 kind of loose ideas of stories that I'm starting to like get onto the page, no matter how shitty of a writer I am. And actually, it's been kind of fun to learn like I'm not that bad of a writer, and to like have an extensive vocabulary and to know grammar and all that stuff. That's part of writing, but ultimately just having a voice is like the way bigger part of writing. And it's kind of a nice pressure off that I don't need to be some like literary genius to write something.
I also feel like you would be an amazing actor.
Well, I like acting. I mean, acting is hard, first of all.
I saw you in Jed's series, Delusions of Grandeur.
That's like one of the few times
I love how you were bitchy. That attitude that you gave the woman.
Yeah, I acted in that thing. And I mean, honestly, it's been so, like I was saying, it's been so nice to just be around Jed, especially because Jed is just he's on a mission to just make his own thing. And I just feel so much like respect for what he's doing. And it's been so nice to just kind of through osmosis learn some of the lessons he's learning as he makes stuff. But yeah, he shot a pilot episode of this show he's working on, and he wrote a little scene for me to be in it. And the amount of respect I gained for actors in like 2 seconds, it was pretty profound. And just, yeah, I mean, like...
But that's a good sign. Listen, it was like few seconds, but everyone was like, oh my God, Cam, that was really good.
Well, it's funny how like, yeah, it's one thing to be able to even do anything believable on screen, let alone to do it in a repeatable way. Like I just have a lot of respect for like the process, and it's just easy to think that these movies are a bunch of people rolling up and improvising, and they're just like cutting the best moments together, and maybe there's a little bit of that happening, but it's mostly a plan, and it's mostly coming up with like a vision that's a repeatable thing that can cut together. Like it's a whole other level of filmmaking that I just honestly haven't had much experience in, and it's cool to just like see this other level of what it takes to make a story.
I'm so curious to see your journey because I got a feeling that it's gonna be huge. You're already huge, but I feel like 2024 is the year where so many things happen, so many things are materializing, unraveling. I don't know how you feel, but 2024 just feels different.
I agree. And it like, there's something about how COVID factors into all of this, and in a way that was really, there's a timing element to like what's been happening in the world around us that feels like hopefully there's like a watershed moment about to happen. And I think like the way all of us, especially like the ways our careers kind of timed up with COVID and all these other things. Yeah, hopefully 2024 is the year where new things start happening. Yeah.
What would you, or is there like advice that you would give young people that wanted to become directors or wanted to get started in the industry but are like a little hesitant or a little shy?
Yeah.
Is there something that when you look back onto your career really helped you like a lot to just get started and just get into making?
Yeah, I mean, probably the most important thing is just surround yourself with people who are chasing the same things. I think that's like so valuable to just like put yourself into a stream of people making efforts that by nature is going to just help you, right? And the way the community element of it translates into like what inspires you and what motivates you and what actually helps make it happen and all that stuff. So I think the people side of it cannot be overestimated maybe. And so I think my first piece of advice is just like find the people you want to work with and try to work with them. And then from there, I think like try to take consumption seriously. Like if you're seeing things you like, you're saving them and you're kind of breaking it down for yourself. Why do I like this? What about this like does something for me? Because that is ultimately what your artistic voice is. And the sooner you can decode that for yourself, the sooner you can start selling it to other people as well. And so I think surround yourself with good people, take consumption seriously, like get your Instagram feed dialed, get your Vimeo feed dialed so that you're just like seeing stuff that inspires you consistently. And then, and so much of starting out is just imitation too, right? So if you're consuming consciously, your imitation is going to be a better form of imitation. And as you imitate, you're going to find your own kind of balance of all the different inspirations and whatever, and you'll discover your own taste as you go. And yeah, I think the last part of the puzzle is just like really think of it like exercise, like you just have to produce a certain volume of work before you're going to be good. And you just got to start chipping away at that and taking every opportunity that comes your way to just like maximize every opportunity to grow as an artist, and and you're just swinging for the fences every time something is thrown at you, you know? And even if it's like even if it's a corporate medical video like I did, like take the story side of it seriously and use everything as an exercise, you know, and if you treat everything as an exercise, like you getting better is inevitable. So that's kind of my,
Love that.
surround yourself with good people, watch really good stuff, and make a ton of stuff.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cameron. I feel like that was super valuable.
Good. Well, I'm so happy to be doing this. I love talking about this stuff, and with you especially. We just got the crew, and I really am so glad. My last little like diatribe here. It's so one of the best parts of the job. Like I said, it's just like I love that I've been able to go to all these different places, meeting people who have such different stories and backgrounds and whatever as I do. But you see that twinkle in each other's eye and you're like, this person, I want to work with this person. And it's so cool how you were one of those people years ago. And here we are, like, still finding a way to, like, collaborate and just chase the dream together.
Absolutely. And I remember, like, I said that to Jed as well. I got to know Jed, I think, a year later that I got to know you, Patrick, and Mason. But from the first time I worked with you guys, it was like, okay, I'm in love. I need to work with these people because it's just easy. You're in such horrible conditions, horrible in terms of, you know, it's super hot and it's long hours. And at the end of the day, you know, why would you stress each other? You want to have good people around you. But I remember, I think the following year, where I think I approached you and I said, hey, Cam, you approached me. I think you approached me and you asked me, like, if I could do some back office stuff or something. But then I feel like you still needed to figure things out. And I feel like that planted the seed into my brain that I'm like, okay, no, we got to keep chasing this. We got to make it happen somehow. And now, another 1 or 2 years later, it happened. I'm really grateful for that.
It's so fun that we have this job that you're just like bumping into people, and if you have a horrible experience, you never have to work with that person again. And if you see the twinkle in their eye, you're like, okay, you're part of the crew now. Buckle up. You know, like, I love that.
Yeah,
it's so
you're part of the family.